everyone, and welcome to Royalty with Brittany. This is not our normal shooting area, as you can see. This is my bedroom, and the reason why I chose to film here today is because we're going to be talking about mental health. And when I'm struggling with my mental health and my depression is really bad, this is where I want to be, in my bed, all by myself. Normally, I cover on my Twitter, because this is my very first video, royal engagements, what they're doing, my thoughts, and unfortunately over the past couple years it's just been about Meghan and Harry. But Harry recently did a live therapy session with a doctor that I'm not quite sure what his credentials are, and if you know them, leave them in the comments below. I'd love to know. But from what I've heard and what I've read, he diagnosed Prince Harry with PTSD and ADD. As someone who has struggled with their mental health privately for almost my entire life, I took great offense to that. This video for me is going to be very vulnerable, revealing a lot of things that I haven't really revealed to anyone outside of my close personal circle. I recently lost both of my parents in two, I would say, tragic ways. First, my father died in September of 2020. I received a phone call from my sister at 5:30 a.m. saying that my father had passed away from cardiac arrest. And I rushed home. And during that time, my mother was in the hospital battling cancer. Two of my sisters went to the hospital to break the news to my mom, who immediately signed herself out because she wanted to be with all of her children. 5 months later, in February of 2021, my beautiful mother took her last breath. 5 months and 1 day after losing my father, I held her hand while she took her last breath. After that, I shut down. I didn't talk to anyone. I went on with life and I acted like everything was okay. Until my husband, who knows me better than anyone and my best friend, said, "You need to get help. You need help. Something's not right." So I went in and I did a depression screen, which I failed spectacularly. And my primary care, or my general practitioner, started me on depression medication, but immediately referred me to a neuropsychologist so that I could undergo more in-depth and gruesome testing, crucial testing. I went through several different medications before we finally found one that kind of worked. And when I say that I failed the depression screening spectacularly, I mean I failed. I didn't want to live anymore. And the only thing that was keeping me here were my daughters. And even till today, I will be honest with you, and I told you that this was going to be a very vulnerable video. They are still the reason. It took months to finally get an appointment with a neuropsych. And when I finally got that appointment, I was notified that I would be there for hours, pretty much all day. And I said, okay. Finally, the day comes. My husband brings me to my appointment because he wanted to be there for support, but he was not allowed in the room. But I want to backtrack a little. I got in, so Mental health in America is not easily accessed. It's a luxury for some. And it took me basically saying that I didn't want to be alive anymore to finally get in with a psychologist who could have someone to talk to, and then also get in with a psychiatrist who could prescribe me the proper medication. But this psychiatrist wanted to wait until all of the diagnostic testing was done so that I was being treated for the proper diagnoses. I had to meet with these doctors quite a bit because my depression was severe. When I finally was able to go to my appointment with neuropsych, I was there for hours and hours. And I did more tests than I could count, and I had to talk about things that I was not ready to talk about. Once I was done with that, the neuropsychologist advised me that it would be a while before I would receive my results, which I was okay with. When my results finally came in, it was a blow. I've never openly talked about my diagnoses until recently, until yesterday, publicly. I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and post-traumatic stress syndrome. It feels kind of free to say it, but now you understand why this needed to be my first video. Harry talks about the traumas that he went through, and I'm not negating that Harry went through trauma. Losing your mother in that way is horrible. Trust me, I've lost my mother. It's a pain you never get over. In the words of the great Queen Mother, it doesn't get better. You just get better at it. I am on multiple medications just to get through the day. And I'm not embarrassed of that anymore. I'm proud of it. But let's talk about trauma, Harry. You say that you have trauma because your dad didn't hug you. But that's not true. There's multiple photos, videos of your father being affectionate. I'm not saying that Prince Charles, then Prince Charles, was everything you needed. Trust me, my father was not everything that I needed either. And sometimes my perfect mother in my eyes, sometimes she wasn't either. And I'll get to that. Trust me. You talk about trauma, but you're not getting help. And that's clear. Because you're not dealing with it. You're capitalizing on it. And it makes me wonder if it's true. But I will not go as far as to say that it's not. Because although I may be a behavioral therapist, I am not a diagnostician. I have sat back for a few years and watched you and your wife capitalize on mental health and racism. And then there are people like me who deal with both and are affected by both. Like Megan, I myself am biracial. I never knew my biological father, so I had to do Ancestry.com to figure out who I was. And I found out that I am English, Scottish, Irish, African, and Hispanic. But like Megan, I am one of the lucky ones. Because although I have experienced racism, it's nothing like our counterparts who have darker skin tones. We are lucky because we are white passing. And I know that that doesn't make sense to a lot of people, and that's okay. My experience with racism is something that was very close to home. I experienced racism from my own family. I loved my dad. My dad was great in a lot of things. And he loved me the best way that he knew how. But that doesn't mean that it was good enough or okay. When I tell you that I experienced racism from my own family, I mean that my dad used to call me the N-word. They used to call my hair, that is naturally curly and like Megan, I straighten, N-knots. My dad used to ask me that if he wet my lips, would I stick to the wall? I'll never forget. I have a niece who's older than me. I'm adopted, in case you guys haven't figured that out. Who's also half black, darker than me. And I'll never forget the day that my dad looked at us without a care in the world of what he was about to say and what it was going to do to us, and said, "A good N is a dead one." So I have experienced racism in some of the harshest ways by people that I love the most in this world. And it affected my health. My dad used to throw lighters at me. So when you talk about love and affection, did that happen? My dad hit me with a broom and made the back of my head bleed. He would hit me and then ask me why I was blocking him and to move my hands. There was a day that I was at school. I was in middle school, I was probably 11, and I got a call to come down to the main office, and there waiting for me were 2 Department of Children and Family social workers. My dad had convinced my mom not to have me anymore and to put me into foster care. So that's where I went. I had a sibling make up a lie about me just to have me arrested. I was 9. I was 9. And then later on, that exact same sibling, now I'm an adult, tried to attack me, did attack me, in front of my children. It took 3 people to pull her off me. Do you want to talk about family issues? I ended up with a sprained neck and a concussion because I was trying not to hurt one of my own siblings. And I did not want to do that in my mother's home, in front of my children. But she didn't care. And later on, when I went to go speak to my dad about it, he looked myself and my husband in the face and said, "Well, maybe I had a better view than you did." That's trauma from family, Harry. I am estranged from my family. My children don't know them. They could see them walking down the street and they wouldn't know. That's trauma. That's trauma from a family. That's racism. But I don't go on and trash my family because they are my family. And regardless of what they have done to me, I won't do that. Because that's creating generational trauma. That would be showing my children, my 2 daughters, that it's okay to hurt your family. And I won't do that to them. I will break that. And you say that you want to break that for your children, but you're not setting a very good example. You're teaching them revenge. You're teaching them to hurt one another. And I don't think that you want that. You know, I say to my children, you know, not everything deserves a reaction. Sometimes not reacting is a great reaction. I just finished Harry's book. And there are parts of it that I stand with Harry on. And then there are parts of it where I wonder what his role was, because he very conveniently leaves it out a lot of the time. It sounds like paranoia. Harry makes a claim in his book that he and Meghan were told that they had snipers at their wedding. And that had never happened before, but that is untrue. William and Catherine had sniffer dogs at their wedding, had guards with them, had snipers on roofs. Your wedding security was no different than any other royal wedding when the monarch and the heirs to the throne are present, as well as other kings and queens of nations and their heirs. I'm not saying that there were some headlines that were ridiculous, because I think we can all say that they were. The avocados, really? One person is contributing to climate change and deforestation because she eats avocados? Not possible. Then you should really go after the entire state of California. The man that decided to draw the picture and say the new royal baby and it was a chimp, I was offended by that. But that is not all the headlines. And all because you don't agree with what is being written does not inherently make it racist. It sounds like only Harry and Meghan's opinion is the only one that is correct and accurate. You know, I watched the Oprah interview like many other people did. It was a morbid curiosity, let's be honest. And Meghan talked about the color of Archie and Lily's skin, 2 beautiful children. Not surprised. Meghan is a beautiful woman. Harry is a very handsome man, trust me. I used to have the biggest crush. My husband, everybody jokes around with, who's a redhead with blue eyes. They're like, she married you because you look like him. Thankfully, he doesn't act like him. But when we were pregnant with our daughter, everybody wondered, would she have red hair like him and blue eyes like his family? Or would she have dark hair and brown skin like me and her sister? And I didn't take offense to any of it. Genetics is a beautiful thing. Because my daughter, when she was born, was blonde-haired and blue-eyed until she was almost a year old. Her eyebrows were so blonde you couldn't even see them. People wonder. People wonder. What is this baby going to look like? What genes are they going to inherit? What traits are they going to get? What mannerisms are they going to get? Whose personality are they going to take on? It's a natural, inquisitive thing, and it's beautiful, not a negative thing. Does the royal family have the greatest history? Not really. But the people sitting on the throne today had nothing to do with that. Nothing at all. So why are we holding them accountable for something that they didn't do? Harry keeps talking about the British Empire, but fails to remember that he benefited from all of it, and still does. No one would have paid him what they did for that book if he was just Harry Mountbatten Windsor and not the son of the current King of England and the grandson of the late great Queen Elizabeth II. Never. He still benefits from it, and so does his wife. If they want to break away, relinquish the titles, and then see how much people care about Harry and Meghan Mountbatten Windsor with no access to the royal family. I usually don't talk about Harry and Meghan's children. They are two beautiful children, and unfortunately, they are missing out on an entire family that wants to love them. That's continuing generational trauma. You're withholding them from a family that wants to love them. Cousins that would probably be so excited to play with them. You're creating generational trauma. How are your children going to feel when they grow up and they say, how come we didn't go there? How come we don't know them? What did they do to us? And what are you going to do if your children look back on all the things that you did and said and published, and they don't agree with you, and they say, wow, Dad, you complained and whined about privacy and the breaching of privacy, and then you went on and just grotesquely violated your families. What are you going to do then? Those are questions that I think that Harry and Meghan truly need to ask themselves. What are we doing? What type of model are we showing our children? I don't think it's a good one. But I'm not their mom and dad. And everybody parents differently, but coming from a dysfunctional family, being estranged, my children have never heard me say a negative thing about my family. I teach my children to forgive, but don't forget. I also teach my children that you don't have to forgive to have peace. You don't need to forgive or forget. You don't need either of those things to move on. But always be kind. Don't sink to their level. I know that I've gone off topic just a little. Hopefully you'll forgive me. But mental health is not something to capitalize on. Mental health is serious. It's a pandemic. We live in a society that stigmatizes people with mental health, and then you have people like Harry going on and talking about trauma, but not actually ever dealing with his. Harry thinks that he is the poster child for mental health, but really he's probably making people run the other way, saying mental health does not work. You cannot diagnose someone with PTSD and ADD or depression or anxiety in an hour and 45 minutes. you're doing a disservice to mental health. You're hurting the cause. Do better. If you want to help, you want to end the stigma, get help. Truly deal with your trauma. Because from my reading of your book, it sounds like you deal with it with drink and drug. And is that really an example you want to set for people with mental health? That, oh, the best way to deal with it is to take some mushrooms or drink or smoke weed. And I'm not judging. People are going to deal with it whatever way. But when you have someone who has such a large platform going on TV, acting like he's doing therapy, which I can't say he is or not, but it doesn't look like he's actually getting any better. So maybe he needs to rethink the person who's helping him. And then you write a book and it basically just shows that you deal with it with drink and drug. Why not stop talking? Let the true professionals talk about mental health. That's how you can end the stigma. Let the professionals talk. Because you're not helping. I was so angry when I read all the headlines because I did not pay to watch that. If you are struggling with your mental health, get help. Reach out to anyone. My direct message is open on my Twitter. I'm more than happy to talk to you, tell you what I went through. I want to say it gets better, but I haven't reached that point yet. And I'll always be honest with you. But there are ways to deal with it. There are people out there who really are licensed, credentialed, and want to help. Never be ashamed to have mental health issues. Everyone struggles and everyone needs help. And that is why I leave my DMs open. It will always remain private, and I'm more than willing to talk to you and help connect you with the services that you need. I will also be linking them in the description box below so that you have access to true mental health professionals. Never joke about your mental health, and don't put it off. It gets better. It may not happen overnight. It may not happen in a month, 2 months, 6 months, or a year. But it gets better. And you shouldn't shoulder that burden alone. So thank you for coming to my channel. I appreciate it. Please like and subscribe. And hopefully we'll be able to get back to talking about more royal engagements and events and looking forward to the coronation, May 6th, 2023, which I'm super excited for. We're about to witness history. Many of us have never witnessed a coronation before. I am so excited. My children have actually invited a bunch of friends over. They're gonna have a sleepover and they're gonna wake up and they're gonna watch the coronation because they're so excited. They can't wait to see what it's about, to watch the tradition, the pageantry, which England does so well. And also, my daughter is around the same age as the beautiful Princess Charlotte, so she's excited to see what she wears, and if she gets to wear her first coronet or tiara, my daughter's very excited, as I'm sure all of you are. Please leave your comments and questions below. If you have anything that you do want me to talk about in my next video, I'll be more than happy to do so. And hopefully we'll see you soon. Bye. Have a great day.